and welcome to Unity of Bellingham Sunday service. My name is Liz Layton, and I'm the platform assistant today, and I'm very happy that you have joined us today. I'd like to start the service by sharing our 5 principles of unity. God is good and present in all things. The holiness of God is my own true nature. I am creating my experiences by how I think. My thinking is guided by my daily affirmative prayers and affirmative actions. I follow and am sustained by these values in every way, every day. And so it is. Our daily word for today is prosperity. I am prosperous as I enjoy my daily blessings. I am comfortable with the person I see in the mirror as I begin my day. I'm filled with energy and enthusiasm for my work, my recreation, time with family or friends, or time for learning and reflection. My gratitude grows throughout the day as I take part in activities I enjoy and spend time with people I care about. As I prepare for sleep, I am grateful for the blessings of a day well lived. More than money or possessions, prosperity is an awareness of well-being, my ability to enjoy simple blessings. I strengthen my prosperity consciousness as I bless and appreciate my home, my friends and family, and my work. I increase the flow of abundance by sharing my time, talents, and treasures in service to others. And from Psalm 23:6, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. And so it is.
Good morning. My name is Rev Julie Monague. I have been a Unity minister for almost 40 years. I've served in the board of directors for the Association of Unity Churches, and I have been chairman of the board of the Association of Unity Churches. So a long time of working with Unity churches and working with people has been pretty much my path over the last 40 years or so. Today, I have chosen to talk about death, and a lot of people get nervous around that word, but in a lot of religions, death is something to be celebrated. And it's something that is a wonderful step or graduation into a more wonderful and peaceful way of being in the universe. One of the things that the Bible says is there is no death. And that is obvious to anyone who studies science, that things don't die, they just change form. Whether it's fall like it is now and the leaves are letting go and they're making mulch for the trees all around them. There's always a process of birth and growing to your full beauty, and then the letting go of what is now the winter, where it looks like, again, there's no life. There's only bark and twigs. So today I want to talk about death in terms of our humanity and who we are. There is a wonderful person, Dr. Kubler-Ross, who wrote a book on all the stages of grief and how to work through grief in your life. Now, I believe everyone has some grief about something. I've never met anyone that didn't have some things to work on, to let go of, to forgive, to become that person that says, you know, me not forgiving someone else or not letting go of what I need to let go of in a relationship or in an experience or whatever, that is what holds us stuck sometimes. I really chose to talk about this because in this last week, I lost my sister, who is actually a sister-in-law, but she was a sister to me. And she was my brother's wife. And she was the most exercised, beautiful person. She was a 10th degree black belt in karate. She taught school for 47 years, all music. She was completely a music teacher. And she had the kids from the time they started with an instrument in like 3rd grade or 2nd grade. And then my brother was also a music teacher, and he would get them when they got in towards junior high school. So the Mr. Montague or Mrs. Montague had all the music students in their whole district. And then they moved to another district, and they were in North Shore. So it was a whole nother thing. In fact, Debbie went back to school and got her doctorate degree in musical education. And my brother left school and went through medical school and came out a doctor. So they both had major changes in their careers, and yet both of them were really, really successful. Debbie, though, is a person that if she says she was going to do something, she was going to do it. And it may seem completely almost impossible for anyone to do, especially when you looked at her schedule. I mean, she had concerts and all kinds of plays, and she took kids on trips to China where they came in 3rd in the world for the orchestra band students she was teaching. She just did amazing things. And at one point, she actually heard one of her students up on the roof of one of the buildings. And the way that the building she was in, there was about a 4-foot wall up to the roof of this building. And then the building had a very high peak, and then there was a deep slope on the way down. When she heard him talking and crying, and the vice president was standing there, the vice principal, was standing there waiting trying to talk him down, Debbie just vaulted up on the roof, ran across the roof at high speeds, and took the hands of this young man, who then explained to her that he was really confused about the religion his parents had and about what he should do, and he didn't know what he believed, and he didn't know anything. And Debbie just quietly, persistently told him he was loved and told him he was cared about by her and by God and by everyone, and that this is the time for him to come back in, and we will figure out what you want to believe if you want to work on that. Well, after that happened, of course, he got referred to a psychologist and then got referred to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist decided that Debbie Montague was the only one he really trusted. And so she took this young man under her wing And he got to be in all the band classes that he wanted to be in, and she could be with him through the whole year. She had this young man with him. And, when she died, the message went out, and everybody who read it was just in awe of all the things she accomplished, just in awe of it. But she always did things excellently. I remember when when my brother and her first got married, she had some students that were doing some work for her in the band room, cleaning the instruments or doing something like that. And so she decided to write each one of them thank you notes. And I sat down at the table. I said, "Do you want me to address envelopes or something? Can I help you?" And she says, "No, I really want it to be in my handwriting." She was like very sure of what, if they knew it was from her, they would understand what she was writing. And that's how she was. So everything about death and dying and grief has kind of come up this week for me. And I adored my sister-in-law, and I also realized that we had another young friend in Port Huron that was renting one of our houses that passed away. We had neighbors on both sides of our houses that passed away. My son's boss's wife died of a heart attack, all in the same week. This all happened in 1 week. And it was like, okay, this is time for me to open this up and look at this again, because it's important to understand that human beings have to have processes. You know, it's almost like a baby. When they crawl, they have to know how to crawl, and crawling comes first. You don't just get up and walk. You have to crawl first. You got to learn that step. And grief is like that. You've got to go through all the steps. If you try to skip them, if you try to ignore them, if you just try to hold it inside until you feel like you're going to burst, it's not going to go away as easily. You're not going to work through it as easily. You will. Everyone will. Everyone will work through it eventually. But I'd like to share, some of you know Dr. Kubler-Ross' 8 steps to grief. The first thing that she talks about, the first stage of grief, is shock. And if you've lost someone who you didn't think you would ever lose, I mean, Debbie was more physically fit than anybody else in the family, but she had a blood clot go to her brain, and there was no way that anybody could have known that was happening. So the shock of it is that part where you go, I can't believe this is happening. Not her. It can't be her. She's the strongest one in the family. I mean, Steve tells a story about her having a mattress, a large mattress in their basement that they needed to move up to the extra room in their house. And he said, "Now don't do it. I'll be back in an hour and I'll move it." And when he got back, he said she not only moved it, she made the bed, she put on the linens, and she was ready to go, and that was her. You couldn't tell her she couldn't do something. So the first thing is shock, and shock is, I can't believe this is happening. I just don't get it. I don't get this. Has no reality in my world, and that's that denial that anything happened. A lot of times, kids will have lost a parent or a sister or a brother who had passed on, and they will find out that sister or brother wasn't there, but they didn't know they weren't there. So they would sing the songs with them that they sang, and they would play the games that they would play, because they couldn't wrap their head around them not being there. I had a hospice family when I was in hospice where this young boy, when his grandfather was dying of cancer, and they had him in the living room in his adjustable bed, and when he died, he got up out of the bed and had a seizure. and he fell off the bed onto the floor and died just like that. It was quick, and he then started, the family was a little concerned because then this like three-year-old started mimicking a seizure and rolling around on the floor. And he wasn't verbal enough to talk about what was happening with he and his grandfather. He didn't have those words. He didn't know what shock was. He didn't know what denial was, those kinds of things. But he did that. It was almost like he did this ritual to remember Grandpa. He knew he needed to remember Grandpa. And so he did this ritual of falling down on the floor and shaking around and then getting up and being okay. And that was his way of working through it. We all do it differently. But even little children, even infants, they've proven have grief and experience grief. And so it's part of this process. When you don't believe that this has happened because it's too terrible to have happened. You know, we have this place where there is something, the most horrific thing you could think of. You've lost someone you love dearly, and it feels horrible, and you just have a hard time getting through it at all. You have to remember that it's not about is it true or false. It's not about if they're dead or alive. It's about how I'm going to relate to them now. That's what that little 3-year-old was teaching his family. I want to remember him, and this is what the last thing I saw was. So that's a second. I don't really believe this is true, but my disbelief in it, after everybody tells me, you know, Grandpa's gone, he's not coming back, the disbelief creates anger, and that's the third stage of grief, is anger. Why did this happen to me? I don't really want to believe this. Another quick story. I had a good friend who had a son, and her son had lived with her most of her life, but then she got a job in Europe, and she was in Europe for a year. At the very end of that year, he got in a car accident and was killed. When she came back, his funeral was over by 6 months. It was like there wasn't anything left. There was nothing left. And she had a really hard time working through that because she never got to say goodbye. Saying goodbye to your loved one is really, really important. And I know that usually if I had a family that was going through this, I would go with them and we would pray together and we would say goodbyes and we would do all of those lovely things and sit with them until their time to go. And that is the next stage. The next stage is to be present. Be present to what's really happening. And being present means that however they choose to go, it's their choice. I always thought that we all have a little bit different way of coming into the world. Some of us come in crying, some of us come in asleep, some of it, my mom says, the doctor when I was being born, he did something to break her water, and when he did, he came out and he had a black hair on the instrument, and he said, "This baby has black hair." But that's just the way. We have a coming in way, we have a going out way. Now, if we were Hindu, we would save up the 850 shekels or whatever it is. There's a certain amount that they charge to do the cremation and the burial and all of that stuff. And when a Hindu person in India is told that they don't have long to live, they take their money and a few clothes, but not much of anything that they need, and they go to the city of death. All the people that have been given prognosis is that they aren't going to live much longer, they go to the city of death. And they all sit around together and they talk about how wonderful the next life will be. And they think about how many incarnations they've had through all the centuries and millennia where they've been on Earth. And they wonder if they're going to be on Earth again, or if maybe they'll be on another planet or somewhere else. There could be a totally different thing. But because they so strongly believe that there is no death, it's a transformation of energy. In India, they are celebrating the transition from this more physical body and world to a different kind of transition. It doesn't matter if it's a tree that goes through it or just the seasons. We all know at some time nobody really gets out of this alive in body. I know I often would suggest that when mom was dying or dad was dying, that they bring the kids in and let the kids ask any questions they wanted from their mom or dad. And the moms and dads came up with the most extraordinary wisdom. So being able to talk those things through and not put them away in a drawer and hide them and, let people try and do it on their own. It's really important to help support people going through that and ourselves. If you need someone who you can share with what you're going through, then that's a good time to find your spiritual buddy and work through some of them. So anger was the next one. This isn't fair. This shouldn't have happened to me. The gal I was telling you about where her son had died while she was still in Europe, when she got back, she got a car and she moved back into her house, and she would drive around town, and there was somebody who had a car that was the same color, the same make, the same model as her son. And she would see that car, and she would follow these cars all over town because she was sure it was her son in there, and they just forgot to tell her that he didn't really die. And this was like months and months afterwards. And so, we all have a process. It all unfolds, and it's different from one to another. But that's the one that it can be really hard, because you're living, you can live in a delusion that something's there and it's just somebody's hiding it from you, or they're not telling you, or a lot of that comes out in anger sometimes too. So after that, the sixth thing that Dr. Kubler-Ross talks about is acceptance. And acceptance isn't that, I'm going to accept that my loved one died and I'm going to go on with my life. That's where a lot of people try to do that. But if you don't do it in a way where you get to really feel expressed, and you've told that person how much you love them and forgiven them for anything you need to forgive them, and they've forgiven you, you can move into another experience of life in a peaceful, beautiful, easy way. I remember one of my patients, I really loved her, and she was in a nursing home, and she was getting very close, and at that time I was wearing those kind of false fingernails all the time. And I went in there and she looked at my hand. She goes, "Oh, those are so beautiful. I love that color." And I said, "Well, I'll come and paint your nails tomorrow." So I went and painted her nails, and she was so excited. And so when I was done, I went and gave her a kiss on the cheek, and she started to cry. Oh my gosh, I think she had thousands of tears stored up in her life that never had come out. And she started to cry, and I said, "What's the matter? Why are you crying?" She goes, "Nobody's kissed me since 1949. No one has kissed me since 1949. I said, "Well, I'm going to kiss you twice then." Anyway, we became very good friends, and when she passed, I did her funeral with her son, and it was a very powerful time. It was a very powerful spiritual time for all of us. So that is the acceptance. When we accept, we can cry. She was coming into acceptance that she was going to die. And she was 98, I think, in the nursing home, and her son was 75. And I walked in one day, and her son had passed away in a car accident. And she started the grieving process from scratch right then and there. And we started going through all the process and talking about each aspect of it so she could get through it. And I could get through it. And her son could be sent off in glory and light and love. And that's what we're working for. And it doesn't mean it isn't hard. It doesn't mean it isn't really, really horrible at times, especially for like my niece and nephew that have lost their mom. Losing your mom is just a really hard thing. And so every time we go through this, we learn a little bit more about our process of grieving, our process of letting go, our process of allowing it to be what it is. There's a favorite author of mine, Byron Katie, and she wrote a book called Loving What Is. And so we played a little game when I was working with people, and I'd say, what if you loved this situation? What would you find in this situation that would be funny? What would you eat if you could eat anything, And we'd go through different things like that, and we'd go through, role playing and playing we're card sharks, or, we do all kinds of silly things, talk to each other and play games. And, it doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you get through it with a smile sometimes, just with even a small little smile sometimes. So the seventh step is, what do I want to be now? Because if you lose somebody really close, like my brother has lost his wife of 40 years, you've got to recreate yourself. We actually figure out who we are by how people relate to us. If we come in and we're loving and joyful and happy and so happy to be here, we're moving in the right direction. Everything can be a blessing. Especially everything can be a blessing if we really embrace it all. It's okay to remake yourself. It's okay to try something new. It's okay to pick up a new hobby. So a new life is there. And a new life is probably one of the most co-creative thing with spirit you've ever done in your life. I always say, when I'm in a situation where I know I have to change, I always say, Holy Spirit, sweep out what does not serve me and sweep in what is my highest and best good in this next stage. Sometimes if you just find a few words that you can cling to and think about, and what do I want to be now? Because we're all unlimited. We have unlimited possibilities. So my sense is we've all lost people, and we'll lose more before this pandemic's over, before we get through all the things we have to get through. But we will come through it. And we will come through it more loving, more caring, more kind, more joyful, and closer in every way. So thank you for listening to me today. I am pleased to be here with you, and God bless you and have a great week.
Thank you so much, Julie. We so appreciate your being here and the wonderful words and wisdom that you share with us. Thank you so much. It has come to be the time for our offering. And even though we're not meeting in person, the church still has expenses to meet, and we appreciate your generosity so much. So as you prepare your gift or have it in your hand to put in an envelope to mail to us, please share this prosperity affirmation with me. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
Hello again. Once again, my name is JP Falcon Grady. The song I'm going to sing for you, this song is called Sailor's Blues. And it doesn't sound anything like your traditional blues song, so I don't want to confuse you there. But this song came, I was down at, I believe, Boulevard Park. And we were sitting there, I was sitting there, me and the guitar. So when I say we, me and the guitar were sitting there, once again looking for a song to sing or write. And wasn't coming up with anything. And when I stood up to leave after I'd kind of given up for the day, I looked down, and at the bench, the bench said, this bench is dedicated to all the men and women we've lost at sea. And it struck a chord to me once again. So I said, well, I got to rethink this. So I got the guitar out again and sat down and came up with this song called Sailor's Blues. Here in the dark, I sit by the window, tracing the figures I see. There in the distance, wearing only the fog, my lady, she sings me her song. Addie, Addie-o, I've come for my lover to carry you back to your home. Who love my sweet love, I'll sing for your spirit in hopes that you'll find your way home. Now the journey was simple, just a stone's throw away. On the wings of the seagull I fly, and the stars, yes, the stars seem to welcome me home. With every smile, every wink of the eye, Off the port side, I see my fair lady. Still, she is singing her song. Addie-o, I've come for my lover, carry you back to your home. Ooh, love, my sweet love, I'll sing for cool spirits and hopes that you'll find your way home. Just off the ocean, in the good earth I see words etched in stone for me. It's no magical potion, it's no sweet recipe, it's a prayer that goes melody. Addie-o, I've come for my lover to carry you back to your home. Ooh, love, my sweet love, I'll sing for your spirit in hopes that you'll find your way home. Hopes that you'll find your way home. Down, 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 down. Down we
Beginning soon, we are inviting you to join a prayer circle, either by Zoom and, if we're able, in person. Our purpose is to pray and to hold the light for healing and health during this time of pandemic. Contact Jene at the office at area code 360-733-2270. Thank you.
And in ending this service, we're going to share our prayer of protection. And I do invite you to share these words with me. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. I am the light of God. I am the love of God. I am the power of God. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. And so it is. I wish you a blessed week ahead, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you.